We're afternoon here on the East Coast. We're going to get started today. We have a very time-relevant mastermind for you today. And what we're going to be talking about today is a question you're probably getting from a lot of your buyers and sellers. Should I wait, right? Should I wait to do real estate in 2023, right? And it's an interesting question, and we're seeing it asked all over the place, so it's going to be very relevant in time. And I just want to share my screen with you here before we get going. We've got an amazing lender I'll introduce you here to in a second, one of our superstar realtors. But as any mastermind, what we really get out of it is your input. What we're going to want to hear from you guys after we have our first two speakers is we're going to want to hear your tips, tricks, your scripts. What are you using? What's happening in your marketplace? What's working for you? And also questions you might have that we can answer. But I just want to share my screen here real quick. I want to show you this question right here. Hopefully you can see my screen. Give me a thumbs up if somebody can see my screen. Can you see that?
It's good.
Perfect. So here's a Google question. Should I wait to buy a house in 2023? And you see it everywhere. Is it a good time to buy a house, or should I wait till 2024? This is a survey that just happened September 10th. So just a week ago, 2 weeks ago, an overwhelming 82% of consumers reported that they believe it's a bad time to buy. Guys, that is a crisis for our industry. We have got to change that. When I say we as realtors and we as lenders, we've got to fix this. An overwhelming 82% saying it's a bad time. And if you scroll down through here, it's all over, right? So we're seeing the media, our wonderful media, who we all love so much, putting out information, telling people it is a bad time to buy. And I'm here to tell you that it's not. It's a great time to buy. In fact, last week I was just with Mike Farrell, I'm going to introduce you here in a second, up in Cleveland for the National Association of Mortgage Brokers meeting for the state of Ohio. And we had the chief strategist from Freddie Mac in there speaking, Nora Guerrera, and she had great information was talking about. And one of the things she said was this: we have to get out a concerted effort out to our clients. That means all of us. That means every one of you who's on here has to get out on your social media. You have to get out there, and we have to be talking and letting people know that rates in the sevens are not bad. First of all, 2 and 3% rates are never coming back. We just have to get that out of their heads. They're never going to come back. That was like the perfect storm of calamities. You know, a global pandemic and all these things happening at once to make those rates come together like that. We will never see anything like that again in our lifetime. Now, an interesting fact that she stated to me that I didn't know is that, do you know that for 26 years consecutively, the rates were 8.5% or higher? For 26 straight years. Think about that. We've got to get that type of information out to our clients so they understand rates in the sevens are not bad. 26 straight years higher than 8.5%. And so with that, I want to have our lender on here. I can tell you as a real estate agent, it is very important for you to have a lender. You've got to have a go-to lender. I've been working with this guy, Stacy and I, since 2003. And the reason we do is because of the fact that he's able to educate our clients. We can jump on a Zoom with our clients, and he's able to educate them in a way that Stacy and I are not able to, because sometimes they look at us as the realtor. They see us as salespeople, right? Do people always trust salespeople? No, not really. But when you have a trusted lender, lenders or bankers, they are seen more as trusted advisors, better than us. So with that, Mike's been doing this for a long time. He counts his time in decades in the business. And Mike, we're going to have you take it from there. I know you're going to share your screen. You got some things to share with these agents on how they can convey a message to their buyers that it is not good to wait. It's better to go now.
Well, thank you, Jim. I appreciate that. And good morning, everybody. Jim asked me to come on and talk about a couple points, but Jim, you just actually touched on 4 points. One is should you wait or should you buy now? That's one question. Secondly, what's the note rate? The average note rate in 41 years, the average interest rate on a 30-year fixed bond is 7.125. So Jim, you got a little bit of that information from Freddie Mac last week. And second and third, the third piece is fiscal literacy. Got to educate the buyers right now, especially first-time buyers, because there is no fiscal literacy. Let's face it, in our schools, and they don't understand on an annualized basis what's the benefit of buying a house. Are we talking about the fact of a $250,000 house that you buy right now relatively is about $25,000 in deductions a year on a 7.25% interest rate. Just the interest alone on that loan is $17,340. You add the fact that they can write off their taxes and the closing costs in the first year, you're giving them over $27,000 in deductions. Again, I'm not a tax preparer, but that has to be in the conversation of discussing with them, because a lot of buyers today say that they have a budget of X amount and they don't feel comfortable because they're going $300 over that budget on monthly expense. But we try to educate them that extra $300 on a monthly expense is an investment. And if you're putting into that investment a month, what are you yielding back from that investment a year? So the talk path and the idea is, okay, well, let's look at where you are tax-wise and what your deductions are. And if we can find a way to recoup $3,600 a year in tax refund, isn't that and you apply that back into your monthly expenses, you're making up that $300 of additional cost. So that's one thing, is to educate on the benefits of homeownership. Secondly, I just attended Jim had mentioned the National Association of Mortgage Brokers. We just had our annual convention, and we had, one of the leading economists, Barry Abib, speak at our event. I cannot share any content or any screenshots that he had because it is proprietary. But if you want to find out what I'm talking about, just go to MBS Highway, and the videos are on the MBS Highway if you sign up for that subscription. But the key is this: if you wait for 2 years to buy a $250,000 house, and we educate the buyers on this now, what are you losing in that scenario? Well, on a $250,000 house at 5% rate, that $250,000 house in 2 years is a $275,000 house at a 5% annualized rate. If you bought the house at $250,000 today and you put the minimum Freddie Mac 3% down conventional, $7,500 plus your out-of-pocket closing costs, maybe $10,000 you have an investment in that now to buy today. In 2 years, if that house is worth $275,000, that's a $35,000 equity wealth creation, minus the $10,000 that you're not losing the $10,000. But if you refinance that house in a year to 2 years when the rates come back down, that might cost you $4,000 out of pocket in expense to do that refinance. And therefore, subtracting that, it's still a $31,000 surplus in wealth a year. So when you start to look at the numbers, and especially in the market areas, it is fiscal literacy in buying a home. And that's what we really try to, strive on and sit down with the clients, whether it's a Zoom call or understanding, number one, from the get-go, what is their comfort, what is their capacity, and what is their short and long-term plan of buying the home. So it is definitely looking beyond the closing transaction.
I love that Mike said that. One of the things that's really important that Mike and I decided after being at that National Association of Mortgage Brokers meeting is that we're launching immediately financial literacy. I love when Mike says that. We're going to start doing localized home buyer seminars. They're going to be broken up into little components that we're going to do virtually. We're just going to stick with the Zoom model, bringing people on there, and then have agents that we know come onto it. And of course, we're going to record them and we're going to put them on our YouTube, just like we do our Realtor Masterminds. If you take a look down here, John Herhold put down in the chat box, by the way, where we store this library, this plethora of information from all these people we have coming on here that are speaking, where you can go in there. We also have a Facebook group. So you can join the Facebook group and you can put your tips and tricks on there. But I think it's very important that you find a lender that you can partner with as we see the real estate market shifting here, that will help you educate your clients. Like everything that Mike just spit out there, right? I don't know about all of you, those numbers are flying everywhere, right? If it's confusing to us, think what it's like for our clients. And if your lender is willing to do like what Mike does, we'll jump on a Zoom with our clients and he literally will screen share the numbers for them so they can see it in black and white while we're talking. And it's something that's awesome. Does anybody out there have any questions, by the way, for Mike, our lender, before he's got to jump off? He's got another appointment he's got to get to at 12:30. Anybody have any questions for him on what he was talking about? If so, you can unmute and ask it, or you can put it in the chat box if you want, or you can do the little hand raise, whatever you want to do. Anybody on that? Beautiful. Mike, anything you want to add before you wrap up there?
No, Jim, if we covered the key topics that you wanted, I'm good.
Yep, that's what we wanted to do. We wanted people to know that having the lender get in there with you. Now, some of you might be newer agents, and you might be thinking, man, I don't know if I could spit all that out. Here's the great news. You don't have to be able to spit all that out. You have to find a lender, meet with these lenders. If you're on LinkedIn and things like that, lenders are probably hitting you up all the time to take you, go grab a cup of coffee or lunch or things like that, and sit down and go there with a plan that you're looking for with your lender. Like, here's what I'm looking for from a lender. I'm looking for a lender that will not just do a pre-qual for my clients. I want a lender that'll do a full-blown pre-approval before I go out. With a conditional loan approval. I'm looking for a lender that will do home buyer seminars with me on Zoom, where we can do home buyer education and financial literacy. I think it's a big deal. And I want my lender getting on three-way Zooms with me when my clients come up with this question like, hey, I think I should wait. That's the buyer talking. I think I should wait. I'm seeing all these things on MSN and CNN and things like that saying it's a bad time to buy a house. And we can sit down and mathematically show them why that is not the case. So I want to thank you, Mike, for jumping on there with us today and taking us through that.
Hey,
You guys
Kim?
can, yeah, go ahead.
Kim has a question. Kim has
go
a
ahead,
question
Kim.
for Mike. Where do we go and get the information that Mike mentioned?
So, Mike, what's the website for that again?
MBS Highway.
mbshighway.com.
mbshighway.com. You can find the information. It is a subscription, but there's a lot of consumer information that's readily available. But
you type that in the chat box, Mike, because everybody's going to hit me up for that after you leave, and just go ahead and put that in there with that website. And that information is proprietary information, but it's great stuff. People can share that with their clients, just not on social media. Is that right, Mike?
That is correct, because it's proprietary, unless you have a subscription for it.
Okay, beautiful. And then a lot of lenders follow that. Is that Harry Habib that does that?
It is Barry Habib, and again,
Barry Habib.
The number one, number two economist on mortgage-backed securities, and well followed.
Yeah, so if you're not following Barry Habib and you guys want to stay up to date as to what's going on, that's who you want to be following. And Mike, will you type his name in there also before you jump off with his website, so everybody will have that, because they can download this chat after we're done.
Yep.
Great. I appreciate your help on that, Mike. And next, we're going to go to Alex. So Alex is a real estate agent, absolute superstar. He's got a huge team doing tens and tens of millions of dollars in production a year. He's out of Indianapolis. He's a wealth of information. And while Alex is gearing up, getting ready here to go, we're also going to want to hear from you guys here in a little bit. Like, what are you hearing in your marketplace? What are some questions, objections you're getting? What are the tips and tricks, some of you seasoned agents, not old timers, but seasoned agents out there? What are you doing? How are you responding to people when they say, you know what, I think I should wait to buy a house? But while you're thinking of that, we're going to take Alex and get him launched going here, and then we'll be taking your questions, tips, and tricks after Alex talks. So Alex, take it away, brother.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks so much, Jim. So a question for you guys. If you were a buyer, and let's say in the last 18 months, you've been waiting on the market. I've got a list of things that have changed in the market, and I'm going to explain how it's changed, and it'll help you understand why this whole conversation around waiting is so important. So if you're a buyer that's been waiting in the market, home prices have gone up, interest rates have gone up, your monthly payment has gone up, your down payment has gone up, your inventory to choose of what you want to buy has gone down, and your buying power and the affordability to be a buyer has decreased. But additionally, the cost to rent has also gone up. So if you're dealing with first-time home buyers, who are oftentimes people that want to wait, the cost to rent has also gone up. So if you're talking to a client, it's really important to share that information with your consumer and say, you know, we use this conversation with a lot of folks that we work with in our market. Help me understand why you want to wait. And one of the things I wrote down on my notes here is it's really important to understand, why really is the consumer waiting? What is the real reason for that? You're waiting for rates to come down? Because if you're waiting for rates to come down, or you're waiting for prices to come down, you are waiting for increased competition to enter the market, which, if anybody knows the supply and the demand matrix, that means that your prices and your buyer affordability decreases as well. So what truly are you waiting for? And so the traditional consumer that wants to go purchase a home right now, and we hear this from a ton of people, moving is hard, it's expensive, it's challenging, nobody likes to do it. I want to find my dream home, or I want to be in this home for much longer. But we need to educate buyers that the house you buy today does not need to be the house that you need to live in for the next 25 to 30 years. The traditional consumer moves every 5 to 7 years, right? So if you're a buyer today and there's a reason that you need to move, whatever that reason may be, you should be looking for the next step in your life that allows you to live in that home for 5 to 7 years. And at a minimum, 2 years for the tax purposes. So when you have the consumer that says, well, I don't want this because I need more bedrooms, or I need more square footage, but all these things have changed in the market. Prices have gone up, affordability's gone down, and rates have gone up. We need to be educating the buyers that, hey, look, we don't need to look at those houses anymore. Let's scale in a different direction and find something for you that works today. And the reason I tell that story, I have a buyer that's potentially writing an offer on a property today. I've been showing them houses for 3 years. In those three years, houses we've passed on have been put back on the market again for $100,000 more than what they cost when they looked at them the first time. And so when you talk about that cost of waiting, that in itself is a cost. But I took some of the information and I looked this up in the market. In October of 21, so 2 years ago, the average 30-year mortgage interest rate was 3.7%. The median house price was $345,000. So if you did if you put 20% down as a buyer, your payment was $1,628, and that includes your taxes and insurance. Over the 30-year life of that mortgage, your interest is $147,000. So the total cost of ownership of that property shakes out to $586,000. And this is where this is going to blow your mind. If you waited and you bought today because something forced you in your life to buy today, your average 30-year note, 7.19%. The average or the median home value, $400,000. That payment is over $1,000 more a month, so $2,669. The total interest over the life of that 30-year mortgage is $462,000, and the total cost to own that house over those 30 years is $961,000. The difference in waiting in that instance, $375,000. That is insane. To do what? To guess? Because that's ultimately what we're doing here. Somebody's waiting because they're waiting on the perfect time. Well, you don't know what's coming in 12 months. You don't know what's coming in 6 months. What's going to happen is there will be something in your client's life that will force them to make a decision to move. And so we talk all the time about working with clients that want to move versus have to move. And it's really important to understand the critical factor that has them wanting to go dabble in the real estate market. Why are they looking at property? Why are they considering a move? And what has them interested in doing this? And oftentimes it's your life events. It's a job promotion. It's losing your job. It's death. It's disease. It's divorce. It's all of those things. It's, hey, we outgrew our family. I got married. We had kids. We had this. It's events like that. So if you think as a consumer, why have you ever moved? Those are the reasons that your clients are moving. So instead of trying to take somebody that's looking because I don't really like this about my house, or I don't like that, we ultimately need to be focusing on people that have had real life events that need to move, because they focus less on this whole idea of waiting and they work in that idea of the now today. So that's some information on that front. I think, again, I've written it down like 3 times on this. You have to understand why somebody ultimately wants to move. The other side of this, look, we're talking about buyers waiting. Who on here has a listing right now that is sitting and stuck? I do. My team has like 5 or 6 of them. And so when we talk about the idea of waiting as well, that message needs to be delivered to our sellers. So I talked about some of the things that buyers are experiencing with waiting, But if you're a seller right now and you're continuing to wait around for this perfect time to put the house on the market, buyer affordability is less than it's been in years. The number of showings, because the number of buyers in the market has decreased, the number of showings on a property has decreased in years. Buyer fatigue, which is a real thing, which is all the nonsense buyers have had to deal with to purchase a home, that's higher than it's ever been. And so if you're a seller with all of those factors, your control and your power is the lowest it's been in a long time. Get your house ready, prepare it correctly, and put it on the market today, because we don't have the inventory for the buyers. That's how you capitalize on opportunity, is you prepare your house and present it to the market. And when you do that, you should be putting the house on the market between 5 and 10% less than what the market data shows the house is worth, because that's the true market value of what it's worth today, given all these factors that are playing a role. If you have a stuck listing, you're probably 10% too high, and that's pretty painful for sellers to experience right now. But all of these factors work together and play a role. It'll be great again in April, May, and June, but right now where we are today, this is the cost of waiting for sellers. So I'll turn it back over to Jim. You guys can jump in and we can kind of talk through this, but I think it's important and interactive across multiple markets here to, you know, have the conversation and the dialogue. But we all have the clients that have been looking at houses for 6 months, 12 months, 2 years, whatever it may be. And what happens is the houses that they could have bought a year ago, they can't afford anymore. And so what that does is it takes the buyer, it deflates them, and it crushes the experience that they're having. But it's our job to help them understand, if you stay on the sidelines and continue to rent, or you continue to stay in the home that you have all this equity tied up in your house. That's not the best place for it. You need to get off the sidelines and onto the playing field and be effective with what you're doing with your money.
I love that, Alex. And something that I was going to share my screen here. I want people to take a look at this, that I think is really effective with people is, can you guys see my screen there? The Zillow
Yes.
rent index. I'm sorry, I said the Z word. I have to spit in our house anytime we say the Z word. But look at the rents. What are rents doing? I ask the question to my people, what are rents doing? What have rents been doing? And I make them answer. Just sit there silent. They're going up. What do you think, if you had to guess, over the next 10, 20, 30 years, rents are going to continue to do for the same space that you're in right now? What's the rent going to do? And I make them answer. It's going to go up, right? It's going to continue to go up. And that piece right there says, look, rates aren't where you want them to be right now because you heard about interest rates that were at 2 or 3%. Well, let me ask you this question, Mr. Buyer. Why didn't you pull the trigger back then? Everyone was telling you it was the historically lowest rates in the history of mankind, and you didn't pull the trigger back then. What do you think is going to happen if you stay where you're at and you just keep renting? You're going to spend more money for the exact same place. But what happens to you on a fixed rate mortgage? What happens on that? That is the worst case scenario you will ever pay, ever, getting in now. What if rates come down? What if they come down 1 or 2%? What if by a miracle they get back down to 5%? Then what do? Well, what we do is we refinance you to a lower rate, but a shorter term. And then I'll sit there and show them the math on what a 20-year is. Let's say you're at 7.25% for the next 3 years. And then rates somehow magically get down to 5%. Some world calamity happens and the rates become ridiculously low again and artificially low. And they get down to 5%. Well, we'll refinance you to that 5%, but we'll refinance you to a 20-year term. And here's what's going to happen. We'll get you to a 20-year term, but your payment will be similar to what you're paying right now. But now we just knocked 7 years off that 30-year mortgage. So if the miracle happens and the rates come down, we'll just shorten your term and lower you down. Your payment will be the same. And we knocked off all those years of interest. And now you're paying your house off in 23 years instead of 30 with the payment that you're doing right now. The cost of waiting will cost you a fortune, because here's what I learned from the Freddie Mac strategist. That by the way, the Freddie Mac strategist, for everybody on here knows what Freddie Mac is. I'm just going to say it just so you know. It's one of the GSEs, right? There's Freddie Mac, there's Fannie Mae, and there's Ginnie Mae, and of course there's FHA. Those are our quasi-government agencies that provide liquidity to lenders. They buy the loans from the lenders so that the lenders can go out and get more loans, right? And keep working with us. And by doing that, it allows us to do more real estate transactions and faster. It keeps the lenders liquid, right? So Freddie Mac said we need to do a survey on what's going on out there in the marketplace. And so this woman's the head of it. Her name's Nora Guerrero. If you ever get a chance to hear her speak, you want to look it up and look her up. She's amazing. She travels around in different cities, by the way. So she comes to your city, go see her. It was awesome. As you can tell, I'm jacked up about the stuff I got last week from it. And it sounded really boring. The National Association of Mortgage Brokers chief strategist, but she was amazing. The stats she brought and things like that. And here's what she found. Millennials right now, and this is, by the way, everybody on here needs to focus on millennials. When I tell you this, you're going to get very excited. Millennials, first of all, have gotten a really bad rap because, we picture them as some, unemployed kid lived in their parents' basement. And that is not at all the case. It is not at all the case when you survey them. Millennials right now are the old millennials are as old as 45 years old. Can you believe that? Some millennials are 45 years old and they have not bought a house. Some of them are as young as like 28, 29 years old, right? Do you know there's 50 million millennials between the ages of 29 and 45 who have not bought a house? The number one reason why they have not bought a house is financial literacy. See, millennials, especially minority millennials, and we're talking Blacks and Hispanics, historically, when they're surveyed, this was a 4-year survey done by Freddie Mac, they go to family members to get financial information, and they get bad information. And the bad information is there not because the family members are saying it bad on purpose. The family members are giving them old guidelines. See, a long time ago, you had to have 20% to put down, and you had to have a 700 score to be able to buy, or you couldn't. And so, especially minority millennials, they're getting that information from their grandparents who have been a renter their entire life because it was hard to get a home decades ago. It was. You had to have 20% down, right? Now, some people can purchase homes for as little as 0 down, but definitely with 3%, you absolutely do not have to have a 700 credit score anymore. Freddie Mac's buying them all day long at 680 with 3% down. And so we have to get that message out to people and bring more buyers in, because here's something they found that was amazing. Some of these youngsters, these millennials, they're a youngster to me. Everybody on here, if you're younger than 55, you're a youngster to me. But they don't realize that with 3% down, that's no different than first month rent, last month's rent payment, and a security deposit. That's basically 3% down on the mortgage. It's the same number. And guess what? To apply for rent, they have to have 2 years of tax returns. They have to have 2 months of bank statements, and they have to have 2 pay stubs. That's the exact same thing, right, as when they're applying for a mortgage. So it's similar to what's on there. And when we can lay out for them the fact that they have the potential in the future for their payment to go down by 2 different ways. Number one, refinancing them to a lower rate. And number two, when PMI comes off, their payment's going to go down. Is it ever going to go down in rent? You have to ask them that and get in their head and remind them, like what I said at the very beginning, the average rate for 26 years consecutively, the rates never dipped below 8.5%. There were entire realtors that their entire career, their rates were 8.5% or higher, and they were in the teens. And when you frame it for them like that, it's a paradigm shift in their head that, hey, 7.25% is not a bad rate. It's not. Did you miss out on the 2 and 3% stuff? Yeah, you did. Why would it? It was a boneheaded move. You sure did. But if you wait, it's a worse move, right? And so that's great. So let's open it up here to some people on that have some questions. And I'm actually going to call on a few people that are seasoned professionals that are out there. I'm talking to you, Oscar and Tony. I'm going to be calling out on you guys here in a second.
I'm going to jump in and
go ahead, Alex.
Yeah,
fire away, man. Go ahead.
One of the things we talk about all the time, and look, if you're a real estate agent, you should believe this, but isn't real estate the best investment you could possibly make? If you hold real estate, if you buy and you wait instead of waiting and buying, isn't real estate the best investment you could possibly make? So if we truly believe that, and that's the message that we're all pumping out on Instagram and we're telling our clients that, there's a couple things. That still means it if the rate's at 7.25. It still means it if the rate's at 7, all of those things. So it's still important to push and convey that message. But the other side of it is everyone in this room should be partaking in real estate investing. Because if you believe that it's the best investment, when you take your money and you're putting it into additional streams of income, whether that's the stock market or whatever you do, why are you not buying today? And if you say it's because the interest rates, that's why you can't get your client over the hump. You can't get yourself over the hump. I wrote an offer on a property this morning. I still buy. I've purchased 4 houses this year. I have an offer in on another right now. I believe that it's the best time to buy. So when I sit across the table from a client and they say, what would you do? It's I just wrote an offer on a property. It's the best thing you could ever do. And so look, if they're buying property, and maybe this isn't the forever dream home. One thing I wrote is that we need to help our clients understand that you may not get your dream home today because of affordability, but it does that equity increase that you always can see in our real estate investing. Maybe that delays your dream, but you can get into this now. If you're renting a property, you are not getting any closer to being able to buy your dream home. You're not getting any closer because you're just lighting your money on fire. But if you're taking this and you're investing today, maybe it's smaller, maybe it's a little bit less, but you're helping your clients understand that maybe that equity growth down the road is going to help you be in a better position to do this. So I think it's important to live it as well. And look, if you partake in any investing across any form of real estate, all the people that dabbled and the pretenders and all the phonies, they're out right now. So now for somebody like me who's a player in that game, I get excited about it. I know I can walk in a house and go, oh, nice, this is a good opportunity. And maybe my cash on cash, or maybe my cash flow is a little different. But if I'm buying this for the long term, not just today, this is a great play. In addition to all the tax savings and benefits that we've talked about before on here. So, again, if it's the best investment that you can make and you truly believe that, you should be telling your clients that, but you should also be living that out.
Love it, Alex. Tony Williams, you've been doing this for decades and decades, and you've got that wisdom hair up there like I've got. So, Tony, someone says to you, you know what? I think I should wait. The rates aren't that good right now. What's your response, Tony? I'm going to Oscar next.
Well, first, Jim, I want to thank you for putting the Zillow rent index up there. That's something that I'm going to use immediately. I live down the road from a development where the developer kept the entire development to rent it all out. I'm talking about over 100 homes. And it's my place to make sure that those millennials that are moving in there, and those now that the rent is starting to expire and their leases are going to be readjusted, making sure that they have a real good understanding. The other thing about the lender, your lender partner is so important. Go to a lender and say, look, when you meet with my people, I want you to talk about payments. Don't talk about rates. They may ask you about rates, but when you mentioned 26 years and it was above 8.5%, I could tell you what it was. I was talking to a guy today at lunch and he asked me, he says, man, I'm thinking about buying, but the rates are too high. I said, no, sir. No. When you talk about 26 years and they were above 8.5, I could tell you what happened. It was outrageous. We had to get real creative with how we did financing. But when you pick a lender and you're across the table at lunch with that lender, say to him, when we talk to my clients, I want you to talk about payments, payment range. Get off the thing of the rates being high. You'll get more deals worked out when you talk about payment range. And then at the same time, when you're talking to sellers, make sure that they understand the importance of contributing to buy downs, contributing. You may not even know what discount points are, but I'm telling you, they're out there now, contributing to buy those rates down. And contributing to the buyer's needs. Their houses are going to sell faster. The buyers are going to be in a better situation, and they're going to get their payment back to where they need to be. But hey, Jim, Alex, all you guys, man, thank you for this great information. Great session today.
Great stuff, Tony, on that. And one thing that I love Tony mentioned on this with the creative financing, I mean, let's not forget short-term fixed rate loans, also known as adjustable rate mortgages. But when you say adjustable rate mortgage, you scare the crap out of your people because they think the rates are going to be adjusting. They're short-term fixed rate loans, right? They come in 1, 3, 5, and 7 year increments. And based on the amount of time they're going to be there, look, if your client knows that they know beyond the shadow of a doubt they're getting transferred out of the state to another job within 3 to 5 years, then put them in a 5-year short-term fix. They don't need a 30-year fix. That's the 30-year fixed is the worst rate. But this is just like what Tony said, it's important to have a good lender, and you can jump on with them. Zoom is an incredible tool now to sit there and show them in black and white and sell the payment, as Tony said. Buyers buy payments, especially these millennials. And here's what, I don't know what's happening in your market, but here in Columbus, Ohio, you can still buy a house for less than what you're going to pay in rent. It's crazy to think about it, but even with the rates where they're at, they absolutely can do that still. But Oscar, you've been doing this a long time, brother. And so somebody says to you, hey, I'm going to wait to buy and sell. The rates are too high. What are you coming up with?
Good morning, everyone. I hope everybody's having a great day. And thanks, Jim and Alex, and thanks, Tony. And basically, Tony hit the nail on the head. It's just about payments. But my answer is to our buyers. I tell them, I think you're gonna wait for a long time, and probably waiting, you're never gonna buy a home. And here's why. Everything is about demand and supply. Right now, we have very low supply, and their buyers are thinking that the interest rates are gonna go down, the market is gonna crash, and literally I go with them. Look, we're never going to see what happens in 2008, 2009. We're never gonna see that again. At least in my opinion. I always emphasize in my opinion because you never know. But the interest rates are not gonna go down to what we had 3 years ago, because unless we had another pandemic. That was the reason we had the interest rates low. So that's what I tell them. Look, the cost of waiting all these years, I go with the numbers, just like Alex has done it. I showed them the number. Look, this is what you already missed, and you're gonna keep missing it. And don't listen to the media, because what you watch on TV is not the right information. The media is misinforming you. So I go with numbers with them and motivate them to buy, and let them know that if the interest rates go down, they could refinance. But they ask me, is it a good time to buy? Yes, it's always a good time to buy. Why? Because if you need a home, why pay in somebody else's home or mortgage? If you pay in rent, you pay in interest rate, mortgage, and also the landlord's equity in every month. So that's what that's how I answer them. So
I love it, Oscar. Great stuff on there. Beautiful. I appreciate you giving advice on that. That's awesome. One thing you said there, that's the media, the national media is talking about national numbers, but real estate is hyper local. And when I tell that to my clients, it's hyper local, and it's not just by state or city by city, or even neighborhood by neighborhood. Sometimes it's street by street as far as what's going on. And that's why you use a trusted real estate advisor to help you with that. So I love it. So Drew, if you're on there, Drew, if you want to unmute, we'd love to hear from you and what your thoughts are on this. If you're on there, go ahead and unmute. Can you hear me, Drew? Big John told me to call on you, so that's why. All right, so when Drew gets ready to go, Kim Campbell, I see you down there smiling. Somebody says to you, hey, I think I'm going to wait, right? These rates, I don't know, I'm going to hold off. What would you say to that?
Like, awesome, let's go ahead and wait, because you're going to pay premium price and higher rate then, or this is a place where you can actually put in an offer and get the rate, at an okay rate right now, and get a discount. Like negotiate it down further. I was working with John. Precisely, John's looking for a home like about $800,000, and we was gonna put an offer in like about $700,000. Where else in market can you do that with the rate only 7%? Because I've been around a little bit over 24 years, so I seen the rate up and down 8, 9, 10% before too. So this is a perfect storm for people to go to buy, because the seller willing to go down because they don't know what they're doing, right? They're like, well, they're kind of not sure if their house going to go even further down. And I'm saying it will, but yet the rate going to go up. So I tell people, you can wait and pay premium for the price and premium for the rate, or you can buy now, negotiate out the price, and get a great rate. That's what I would be saying. So everybody should buy right now and not wait.
I love it. That's great. You got the rapport with your clients to throw a little bit of sarcasm in there with it, and use a little bit of humor to turn that edge. I love it like that. I've got a question for, because we've got some seasoned ages on here. Been a while. Who on here has sold a house with rates when they were higher than 10%? Anybody on here who's done that? So we got Tony Williams raising hand, Kim Campbell raising their hand on that. Right when I started in 97, they were just coming down below double digits on there. So Tony, what's the highest rate you've ever sold a house at? And how many years ago was it?
This was somewhere around 81, 82, and it was 18 and a half.
Oh, hold on. Coming for me, Martha. Wow, Weezy. Wow. 18 credit card interest. And people still bought houses back then, Tony?
Yeah, they did. I mean, I remember when it went down to 11 and we thought, wow, this is going to be unbelievable. I mean, the market's going to open wide open. Of course, we were still focusing on loan assumptions, things like that. But yeah, they were 18 and a half. And I remember some executives moving into Atlanta, and we were able to find new construction properties, and they bought at 18 and a half. And then as the rates went down, they had their loans with lenders that would allow them to refinance at a lower rate with very little cost, as long as they stayed with the same lender. So every time the adjustment went down, they started making an adjustment to their rate, but they bought at 18 and a half.
I love it. Streamline refinance. Those will be coming back. If we see rates get back up there in double digits again, you'll see those clauses written into loans, but I don't think we're going to have a problem with that on that. So Barnabas had a question that said, and anybody wants to respond to this can, aren't buy downs and discount points the same thing? Who wants to step up and take that? If not, I can handle it. Anybody unmute want to cover that one? So the difference is, we'll keep this thing moving on here, Barnabas, is this. There's a thing called a 2-1 buy down. A 2-1 buy down is where the seller will prepay the interest on the buyer's behalf at 2 percentage points on the first year. So let's say right now we're at 7.25. Well, the 2-1 buy down would be year one is actually at 5.25 for the buyer, which means they're going to have a lower payment. And then year two, they would be at 6.5%. And then for years 3 through 30, they would be, 6.25. And then at years 3 through 30, they would be at 7.25%. Now, who would want to do a 2-1 buy down? It'd be somebody who knows they're getting a promotion. Like a lot of these millennials out there, they get big, huge promotions, right? They come out of college, they get their first job, and boom, their income goes up 25% in year two, and after 1 year. And then year two, it goes up another 25%. We're seeing that happen all the time, and it works really well for people like that. Or maybe they know that right now they're a one-income family and they're getting ready to add a second income that's going to be coming in a year or two. They'll do what's called a 2-1 buy down. Discount points are where the seller prepays the interest and buys down the rate for the life of the loan, right? So there are different things, but they sound very similar when you're on there, and that's why you want to partner with a lender on that. Barnabas also had a question that said, you can refinance on demand, right? Yes, you can. In fact, lenders love to refinance. They'll refinance you a couple of times a year if they can. They'd be excited about that. He says, so if you can get into a five-year APR and interest rates go down next year, they can refinance to the better rate. Absolutely, they can. And the great part about refinancing for your clients is that there's no upfront cost to them, right? They can roll it right into the loan. And one thing I would caution all of us on here is, if we're going to refinance our clients, let's refinance them to a shorter term, right? Let's not refinance them out to another 30. The biggest mistake that people make when refinancing is they pay 5 years on their mortgage. So there's only 25 years left. And then they go and they do a refinance, and some lender refinances them back out to 30 years. Oh, it looks great, feels great with the payment, but look at all the interest rate they're paying over the long term. They just took that 30-year loan and turned it into a 35-year. Don't let that happen to your clients. Make sure you always talk to them about rate and term. We're going to lower your rate, but we're also going to shorten your term. That is in the best benefits to your client. And Alex threw some applause on there, so appreciate that. Did you have a question, Alex? You got your hands up too.
I'm pushing all these reaction buttons at one time, just jacked
beautiful.
up. But no, I do have something. The one thing we haven't talked about, just go rewind, we'll call it 18 months ago. What was it like? We're talking about payments and we're talking about interest rates. There were appraisal gaps where people paid over a price with whatever they wanted. They didn't inspect property. They didn't get inspection repairs done. So when you talk about just in terms of a payment, that's one thing, but it's also important to help these people understand. I mean, I had a phone call with a friend of mine who's a realtor in Michigan, and he had a buyer trying to purchase a home that was purchased 90 days ago. Well, when they purchased the home 90 days ago, the buyer, now the seller, did not get an inspection. My friend gets an inspection on the property. He's like, man, the roof is shot. He's like, I don't know how nobody missed this. Calls the other realtor. The realtor says, we never inspected. Well, we don't have any money because we don't have any equity, and we can't pay for it because we had to do this, that, and the other to get the deal done. So when you're looking at the bigger picture here, we're talking about, yes, the rates are up and yes, your payment's up. But right now, Kim's talking about a negotiation of, hey, we can get a lower price. You get to get an inspection. You get to keep your money. You don't have to give all your money into an appraisal gap. You get to be fully informed on the condition of the property and then maintain it how you should for the long-term value of your house. That's treating this like a real investment, not just buying a house and living in it and saying, I'll stick it on the market and make $100,000. So that's something else. I think it's super important. And I think the best way to educate people on that is the stories that you tell. We all had buyers doing crazy things 2 years ago, 18 months ago. And I don't think anybody wants to go back to that at all for the sake of our buyers, but also the liability of us as realtors.
I love that, Alex. And, what Alex brings up is a great point, is stories sell, facts tell, right? So you can tell the story. There's 2 stories on here today that everybody can tell and go to their market with and the people with. And that's this: for 26 consecutive years, the rates were 8.5% or higher for 26 straight years. And I have a realtor partner of mine who's been doing this for decades in Atlanta named Tony Williams, and he was selling properties at 18.5% interest back in the day. And that's just a mindset shift when you teach that history lesson to people, where rates have been, and that this is not bad rates on there. So Barnabas had a question on there also. He said on there, the seller pays down the interest on discount or the buyer. So Barnabas, you're going to write it into your offer in there as far as who pays. So the buyer could pay their own discount points if they want. Why would they want to do that? Sometimes there's tax advantages if they know they're going to have a heavy tax bill and they want to write off that prepaid interest this year versus spreading it out over the life of the loan. They could do that. Again, we're not attorneys, nor are we licensed accountants. We have to make sure they get a licensed professional involved in that. That's where you can get on a Zoom or a 3-way call with their accountant and make sure, is it a good time for them, or should they just pay the interest over the length of the loan, right? And also you can get sellers now to make seller contributions. And I saw Tony answer that, either one on there, which is great. Rob, you're asking the question, anyone discussing assuming loans assumptions? Has anybody done any of those recently? That's been a while, right? Anybody doing that right now? Wants to speak up? Can I see Kim laughing? It's been a while since you've done some loan assumptions, right? Tony, how long has it been for you?
Oh man.
It's been a little while. Everything has changed. Back then we had things called non-qualifying, non-escalating loans. So for instance, somebody could put up $5,000 or $6,000 and assume an 8% loan, and they didn't have to qualify for it on an FHA or a VA deal. Today, you need to look at the terms of the loan the seller has now, because if you want to assume it, I mean, let's say that they owe $300,000 and the price is $350,000. So these people are going to put $50,000 down to assume that $300,000 loan. What is the interest rate? What is it going to do? The second thing is, do you have to qualify in order to be able to assume that loan? And honestly, be real careful, because that seller may still have some legal responsibility to that loan if it's assumed. So you got to check to see what the loan is before you just start going out there writing up assumable contracts. There's deals out there that could be had, but you want to make sure your seller's protected. You want to make sure the buyer has a full understanding of what's going to happen. And we're not lenders, we're not attorneys. Check with the seller's lender to find out what that assumption is by assuming that loan.
Love it. Great advice on that. So I want to thank everybody for jumping on today's call. So look, we do these every Monday. You just want to time block this out. If you got some value out of this today, we're going to be doing a lot of timely things like what's happening out there at this time. And we're going to be doing these things. So we do them at noon on Mondays. And I believe next Monday there's a bunch of us going to be in Las Vegas. Is that right?
Yeah.
We're traveling. We're going to be in Las Vegas for a big real estate convention out there. So Monday, October 2nd, we will not be here, but we'll be back on Monday, October the 9th. And what is our topic on Monday the 9th that we're going to have? Do we have that determined yet?
I don't have. We're kind of thinking about moving something around with all these new.
Okay.
If anybody's been paying attention to some of these lawsuits that have been settled by Remax and some of the other brokerages out there with regards to all these co-broker fees and stuff like that, we're trying to see if we could slot something like that in, not next Monday, because next Monday a lot of us are going to be traveling, but the Monday after that, so that hopefully some of the dust will have settled and we'll have time to do that. And then, we've also started doing our Grow Global open hours, and next week tomorrow features Kim. Kim, wave to everybody, say hello, but Kim is going to be, so if you have any one-on-one questions, any deals you're working on that you're kind of stuck with, or you just need to bounce an idea off of somebody, we have our Grow Global's open hours. So feel free to jump on. Kim, that is Tuesday at what time again?
10 a.m. Eastern Time, 7 a.m. Pacific. And Jerry gonna get on there.
Yes. So that's the time. And what is the link? It's a different link than this one, right, Kim?
It's GrowGlobalOpenHours.com.
Very simple. GrowGlobalOpenHours.com, and you can hop into Zoom, and you have any questions or any ideas, you can bounce those off of Kim. Next week, we're all going to be out of town, so we won't be doing our Grow Global Open Hours next week. It'll be back the following week. And just to future something, one of the things that we're going to be doing, guys, is we're going to have a mastermind. We have a tax professional who's got all kinds of advanced tax strategies for real estate investors, but also for agents for our own personal taxes. And we're kind of vetting some things out right now. Some of us are actually meeting with him, and he's done some amazing things for me. And I know Kim and Alex have already got appointments scheduled, and he was actually on our mastermind today, and he was texting me how impressed he was with our group and with the quality of the information that's being shared. So anyway, that's something that we're going to be scheduling in November, so everybody can kind of prepare for, tax season coming up. But also, with taxes, a lot of people play defense, but I think the best thing we can do is play offense. And we're going to help everybody structure things from a business standpoint the right way to maximize all the deductions that the IRS gives you, because I don't think it makes us a better American and pay more in taxes than we're legally obligated to do. So, but anyway, Jim, back to you to wrap it up.
Yeah, awesome stuff. So if you'd like to download the chat, there was a lot of information in there today with different websites and things like that. You can go down to the chat box. There's 3 dots. If you click on those 3 dots, you'll see something that says save chat, and you can save the chat to your computer in a text file, so you can get to that. It looks like we had a question. Jennifer Matthews, you had a question. Tony Williams, with decades of experience, is offering for you to feel free to give him a call. His phone number is right there if you want to hit him up about doing first-time homebuyer seminars. I think that that's a great thing that needs to be done right now. 50 million millennials have not bought. I mean, think about that, 45 years old and haven't bought a house because they're getting bad information, old information on that. Just, partnering up with the lender is very important. I want to appreciate Mike Farrell getting on here today. Freddie Mac, since January, has had 153 guideline changes. 153 guideline changes. If you think you can keep up in the real estate industry and try to keep up with all the guideline changes that are happening in lending, it's not going to work. So it's great to partner up with one, find one that you trust, and get your people in front of them. They can help you close it with all these different things, talking about, like Tony was talking about, with buy downs and short-term fixed rate loans, right? those types of things they can help you with, do that, discount points and all those things. You don't have to know how to do it. You just have to have a really good partner. So thanks everybody for jumping on today. Appreciate everybody's contribution. It was a great one. Jump on. We do have a YouTube website. Join the YouTube site. Join our Facebook page. Go ahead and get some help with the Grow Global open hours that are there to help you out. And as I just want to say, there was a great football game Saturday night. Go Ohio State, OHIO. It was awesome.
Hey, Jim. Hey, go Dogs.
Yeah,
Hey, Jim.
We're
Hey,
gonna see you guys.
yeah, I know it. Hey, I want to thank all the ones that I invited today that are here, and everybody invite somebody to come back the next time we're here on a Monday.
For sure, Tony, that we need the more people we have, the more experience we have from different markets and different backgrounds, I think the better it's going to make us all. So great advice by Tony. See everybody on October the 9th.
Yes, sir.
Our next one, 2 weeks from today. Mark it on your calendar.
Yeah.
Bye, everybody.
Bye, guys.